Well, we're back again. Welcome to Speaking with Authority. I'm Jim Koetting, your host, and today's topic, I want you to think about this question. Have you ever managed a project that looked perfectly healthy on a dashboard and then found out weeks later that it's been in trouble the whole time? Every leader has done that. The tasks were updated, the meetings happened, the status reports were submitted, and somehow reality and the dashboard were not telling the same story. And I've spent years with organizations trying to improve communication and alignment and execution. And one pattern that keeps showing up is projects rarely fail because people don't care. They fail because leaders lose visibility. Someone didn't report a blocker. Someone delayed in updating a task. Someone avoided a hard conversation. Someone was stuck and didn't want to admit it. So the real challenge isn't project management, it's knowing what's actually happening. Today's guest, one of my favorites, Bronson Taylor, is the CEO of Workplace IO. Bronson is working on a question that could reshape how organizations operate, how artificial intelligence can remove the burden of status updates and give leaders an honest picture of reality. So Bronson, welcome back to Speaking with Authority. I'm so excited you're here.
Jim, it is one of my favorite podcasts to come on. I always love the conversations that we get into. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, Bronson, we have today more project management tools than any other point in history. Why are leaders still flying blind?
Yeah, I'll tell you the short answer is project management software is only as good as the data you put into it. And that's probably going to be something you hear me say a few times today, right? If you put everything in the project management software and you have every employee updated every single day, and they make sure they have all the right data to input good information, then yeah, you're going to know what's going on. But we have so much productivity software and so much project management software because we actually don't update it. We actually don't know what's going on, and we keep searching for new fixes. Oh, maybe this project management software will fix it for us. Maybe that project management software will fix it for us. It's what we call the honeymoon phase, right? There's this honeymoon phase for about 2 weeks. And you think, you know what? We're going to solve all of our problems by adopting a new project management software. So you adopt it for 2 weeks. Everyone's really excited about it. And then you log in and it's stale, it's out of date, none of the information is correct, and we repeat the cycle over and over again. And so I think we have so much project management software because we keep looking for the silver bullet, but the real problem is the humans in the loop, not the software itself.
Yeah, that is so true. Now, here's a brutal version of that question. What percentage of the data sitting in an average company's project system right now would you bet money on is wrong, stale, or flat out fiction?
Well, so here's the thing. I could give a percentage, right? But you're not going to believe me. The
Yeah.
listeners, the viewers, they're not going to believe me. So here's what I want you all to do instead. If you're watching this or listening to this, I want you to go to your project management software right now, open it up, and ask yourself, is this up to date? Whatever you're using, whether it's Jira, whether it's Asana, whether it's Monday, whatever it is that you're using, go to it, open it up, and ask yourself, is this what is currently happening inside of my team, inside of the organization? Because if I throw out a number, you're not going to believe me. But I want you to actually look at your own project management software and really decide, is this up to date? And then ask yourself, what would have to happen to get it up to date? And then ask yourself if you're willing to pay that price, because most companies are not willing to do the work and then have another full-time job of inputting the data about the work they did. And so they live with the reality that their project management software is just out of date all the time.
Well, that's really good. I think that most leaders, I think projects don't suddenly fail. I think it is a discovery of failure that
Mhm.
that comes in, that of where they're on the project. Now, is project management really an information problem in disguise?
Yeah. So there's definitely the human component of project management. It takes the skill to know what conversations to have and when to have them and who to have them with, how to motivate. There's definitely a non-information aspect to it. But what's going to inform the non or the human aspect? What's going to inform what conversations you should have? Well, that's going to be informed by the data. And so, yeah, I think the root of project management is good information. And then it takes a human on top of that, knowing what to do with that good information. A lot of organizations are actually two steps removed from having projects go well. They have bad data and information,
Yeah.
and they don't have the human skill of project management. And some
Mhm.
organizations are somewhere in the middle. They have one or the other. Usually it's bad data, but they have the skill of project management. They just don't have the data to work off of. And a very elite few teams that are very high performing have both good data and good management skills around project management to do something with that data. But everyone, almost everyone, has the problem of not having the visibility into the information for them to make good decisions about the projects that are critical to their organization.
No, that is so true. That is so true. Now, do you think people are hiding information from projects because they're just drowning?
I think there's a lot of reasons, to be honest. I think one of the reasons is we're just overworked. I mean, let's be honest. You spend all day doing your job. You don't want to have another full time job of entering the data about the job you just did. I run into this all the time with our developers. Our developers do really high quality work. They're working nonstop. They work late. When the day's over, the last thing they want to do is go from their coding environment into a project management environment and now try to remember everything they did, try to put it in human language that's understandable, try to
Yeah.
update all the dashboards, try to let all the stakeholders know the status of things because they're tired. So I think part of it is not any bad will, it's just the reality that people are really, really busy. I think also people, when they enter the information, they don't know what information to put in, right? The things that seem important to them may not actually be what's important for the project, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like there's only one person, it's the project leader that really sees the big picture, really understands how everything works together, and they know what data they would like to have, but everyone else has a partial view of the project. And so they may actually input it with the data that's not the most critical data. And then sometimes you don't input the data because it makes you look bad, right? Now, I don't think that's, what's always happening. I think it's a lot of being overworked and a lot of not knowing what data to put in, but it's also just the reality that do you really want to update the software that says, yeah, I spun my wheels today. I didn't get anything accomplished. And we're at the same exact spot we were yesterday. That's not
Yeah.
really the data you want to put into the system. And so there's a little bit of self preservation there, a little bit of let's look at the world through rose colored glasses because then
Right.
we can
Right.
all smile in the meeting and be happy. So I think it's actually this admixture of kind of all of those things.
Well, and I think you're right. I think there's also an aspect of fear. What do you think that kind of plays a role in somebody's
Mhm,
actually reporting a blocker? They want to handle it before they report it, and
mhm.
a lot of times there's that fear element.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We don't want to show up with a problem. We're trained to show up with a solution, but that's counterintuitive and it actually works against us when we're doing project management. Project management works the best when you have all the data in real time as comprehensive as possible.
Yeah.
Leadership, you're trained, don't show up until you have a solution. So now you're not a squeaky wheel, you're a problem solver. And so we
Yeah.
carry that mentality into projects. But in projects, we actually just need real visibility into what's really happening. We don't need everyone showing up as the hero after spinning their wheels. We need to know when things are stuck so that other
Yeah.
people, other voices can collaborate and actually
Yeah.
get things unstuck. And so it's almost against what we've been trained to do in some ways, to be honest.
Yeah, because you're always trained to get an A. You don't want to fail. You want to have that out
Mhm,
there. But there's a psychological safety. There's a relational
mhm,
trust issue when somebody says, "Oh, I can't put this out there because
mhm,
Bob's going to blow up if he sees this." Well,
mhm,
then you're defeating the purpose, and that's more of a psychological culture issue and a
mhm,
leadership issue, I think.
mhm,
So there's a lot of smart, talented people out there who wait too long to raise their hand when raising their hand earlier, I think would save them.
mhm.
I think that's a challenge that we face in leadership.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's hard to raise your hand. And that's why, if we're only relying on what people put into the project management software to get our visibility, we're always going to have a partial story. We're not going to see the full view of what's happening because people have so many mental blockers for why they don't put certain information in, the way they color certain information when they put it in, the information they leave out just because they didn't know it was important. And so, if we're relying on the human to decide how to update the software, they may not have bad intentions, but it may
Mhm.
not be actually giving us what we need to move projects forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I find that a lot of projects fail because people just stop telling the truth. I think
Mhm,
that there's a challenge in the manual entry, and I remember working with huge sales teams, and I would set it up and teach people and say, "Look, all you gotta do is when you walk out of the client, hit this button on your Salesforce, talk into it, it'll record the notes." And so simple, but
mhm,
there's an act of actually doing it that
mhm,
that keeps them from I don't know, it's just a procrastination thing that you can set it up so simple, but the people
mhm.
actually have to do it. The cost
The
of manual data entry is huge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When we set up these workflows, when we set them up as project managers, we think this is so simple. You just end this task and then you record it in this way. It's not rocket
Mhm.
science. It can't be that hard. And yet, so many of us feel that the system is not being followed. People are not doing the simple steps. And what we have to realize is we're fighting human nature, right?
Yep.
Any small piece of friction is going to be something that people try to avoid, try to ignore, try to work around. And so the habits that really become habits have to work on autopilot. They have to
Yeah.
be built into the workflow itself and not an
Mhm.
additional step. If your workflow has additional steps where people have to input the data, then you are creating friction, even though it seems like a very simple step. But if the workflow is part and parcel of the work and it can't be ignored because it's happening automatically, that's how we actually get good data inside of projects.
Yeah, and I think that, in whether it's sales or software development or anything, you've
Mhm,
gotta have visibility of where we're at, and every tool depends on humans manually entering that information,
mhm.
and just be straight with me, do you think this model is just fundamentally broken?
Yeah, it's the best model we had until now, right?
Mhm.
You think about back in the 80s, and the first killer app for a personal computer was really the spreadsheet. I mean, the
Yeah,
spreadsheet was a reason to buy a computer. And for the first time, you could track things. You could have a little CRM. You could track your sales calls. You could type in a project and you could type in the dependencies and the task and the people, and you could see it all on one screen. And so from the 80s until now, the killer app of project management and really organization in general has just been a simple spreadsheet or a simple task list. So we've been trained that data entry is the way we track things, but the world's going through a shift. Right now, you see this when you pop onto a meeting, there's always an AI note taker, right?
yep,
And it's
yep,
like, well,
mhm,
why is there an AI note taker? We could just go into a Word document and type up the notes like we used to, right? And yet now we have this note taker that's hearing everything that's happening and
yep,
creating the summary for us, right? So we're starting to make the transition as as a people of going from I don't need to take notes on the meeting. We have AI note takers that do a really good job. We have to make that same mental shift with project management, right? It's the AI note taker is also aware of where the projects are. The AI
Yeah.
note taker knows what's happening in that team, in Slack, in Microsoft Teams, in Zoom calls, in Microsoft Team calls, in Google Meet calls. And so it's just one more half step for us to make the mental shift to say, actually, can AI update our project management software the same way that it's updating our meeting notes now? And so I think we're going through this transition. And so we've been using the best tools we have. And you think about it, all project management is some version of Excel spreadsheets, right? It
Yep.
may have a
Yep.
different layout, it may have different little features, different buttons that connect data in different ways. But at the end of the day, all project management is just rows and columns and data being put into those rows and columns in a way that
Yep.
we can see if stuff is on track. Well, I think AI can listen in on conversations and update those rows and columns and give us way better visibility. So we're just in the
Right.
middle of this massive transition right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. I think the time that's spent updating this is
Mhm,
just insane. And a lot of
mhm,
times, whether it's working with the developers or working with the sales team, I want the salespeople selling. I want the developers coding. I want,
mhm,
I don't want them spending an all day updating
mhm,
their Salesforce or their Jira or whatever they're doing. So,
mhm,
and I think one of the things we got to look at is what happens when a leader makes a real decision on staffing, budget, deadline
mhm.
using data that's 2 weeks old.
Yeah, and everyone watching or listening, they know what happens, right? Things change so fast, especially now
Mhm.
in 2026. Uh, I've never seen business move so fast. You can have an idea in the morning, you can test it in the afternoon, and you can have real data by the evening. And you can know so much in 24 hours that wasn't even on the radar yesterday. And in a traditional project management setting, if you're going off data that's a week old, might as well be 10 years old in the
Yeah.
environments that we find ourselves in now. So if you find yourself making hiring or firing decisions, if you find yourself making budget allocation decisions, if you find yourself making strategic decisions based on data that's 2 days old, then you're actually probably making the wrong decision because that's just the world we live in. Now, I know a lot of people don't love that it's moving so fast. I'm here to say it's never going to slow down again, right? This is the new pace of business.
Yeah.
Business in the age of AI is going to move faster, and we have to be able to keep up with it. But if we're
Yeah.
relying on outdated data, we're not staying in lockstep with the right information to be able to make the right decisions.
I think that's really good. And I think that one of the challenges I face, and I'll give you a little story here, but
Mhm,
when dashboards look the absolute healthiest, that's right before deadlines get blown. And so I was
mhm,
working in a situation, we had 19,000 merchants, 5 million customers, 500 sales reps. We're going through a major, major enterprise overhaul on the system. And this is a project where I actually had to hop on a plane and go to different countries working with developers around the world. And the dysfunction is it's a startup that grew to a multi-billion dollar company, but it was so problematic in that we had one group like Teams and another group like
mhm,
Slack, and one person kept everything on Excel, and one person mandatory you have to use Rike, and another one's like, no, everything needs to be in Jira, and it has to be in Confluence, and this is where it is, and this is this team, and it needs to be on this. It was so confusing.
mhm,
So confusing. And the other problem was that data wasn't updated. So we would look at this project management every week and we'd say, okay, green, 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 green. And then all of a sudden, one of the people on the
mhm.
team, a guy actually working for IBM, our outside consultant, he put one from green to red. And we said, what happened to yellow? Why didn't it go to yellow? Oh, I didn't know this information. So, well, we're delivering on that. That has to be done next week, or the whole thing falls apart. And he goes, "Oh, no, we're 2, 3 months away on that." And we're like, my gosh, why are we finding out about this now?
Mhm,
Well, somebody didn't update. It just I've had those experiences. It's so painful. And you can look at a
mhm,
really healthy dashboard, and then all of a sudden it just goes to muckety muck
mhm.
like that.
As soon as you started that story, I knew where you were going. When you said everything was green, everything's looking good, because that is the way it goes. Because we usually don't update the software with the yellows, with the things that really are in the middle. It's not going well and it's not going terrible. And again, it's that human component. You're relying on a person and their judgment and their time and their skill and their ability to update the software. And as long as we have a human in the middle, think about this. With AI note takers, we've learned that they do a better job at taking notes on a call, right? We wouldn't want to hire someone to show up to the Zoom call to take notes, because if you compared it to the notes that Granola took, or Firefly, or Fathom, or any
Yep.
of these companies, it wouldn't be as good, right? The AI note taker is actually better at taking notes than a human
Yeah.
just typing everything, because it can summarize, it can see what the meta themes are. It can pull out certain things and highlight them. And so the same thing is true of project management software. And your story, there was one person that you were trusting to put in good data. And because that one person actually didn't put in the good data for whatever reasons, maybe he had good intent, maybe he had bad intent, but he didn't put in good data, now the whole project is thrown off. And that's the thing that we've been exploring, is how can AI do this in a really sophisticated way because of stories like you just told. I've experienced that myself so many times, where you're ready to launch something and then you realize you're actually behind schedule and all the data was there. It just wasn't in the project management software.
Yeah. I think, if a dashboard requires the constraint of manual updates to stay
Mhm.
accurate, it's not measuring real I mean, this is measuring reality, or is it just paperwork? And it's a big, big challenge. I think you're really onto something. Now,
Mhm.
you've been working on this for a while, and doing all of the stuff that you've done, and your background of building startups and all the development stuff.
Yeah.
You know this really, really cold, and you showed this to me before. Uh, do you have a demo prepared for today, or are we just talking?
Yeah.
I wanna see what this is. So let me can you set it up and we can see this real quick and
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the because I think a picture is worth 1,000 words.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And so, we ran into this situation. We were using Linear, okay?
Uh-huh.
We have a lot of developers, so that was kind of our weapon of choice. Let's get all the projects managed in Linear. And we were sitting around, and I logged into Linear one day and I realized that everything in it was at least 2 weeks out of date. I mean, the
Wow.
stuff that was in there, not only was it stale, it was irrelevant. We had already moved on. Those were already initiatives that we had killed, and new initiatives that were the only thing that mattered to us weren't even in the system. And so I was
Uh,
sitting here with my team and I was like, we're really smart people, and we're really ambitious people, and we're really organized people. Why can't we figure this out? Like, it was actually a conundrum in my mind, because we're not slackers. That's a thing, right? It wasn't that like we're lazy people and we don't want to update the software. We are a team of just hustlers and go-getters, and we're going to figure it out. And yet we had a Linear dashboard that was 2 weeks out of date. And so we started talking about it. And we started realizing that we have these AI note takers on all of our calls to take our
yep.
notes. And so I had the idea. I said, hey guys, this is a crazy idea. I'm just going to throw this out there. What if the AI note taker updated the software and then we don't have to? And then when I log in as a leader, I know what's really going on, because it can pick up on new projects. It can pick up on when a project needs to be archived. It can pick up on task. It can pick up on who to assign those tasks to. It can pick up on when a task is completed. It can pick up on the friction that nobody wants to put into the system because it might make somebody look bad. It can pick up on the blockers that are real. And so we can see reality. And I said it, and it was one of those moments where everyone was like, "Do you think it would work?" And I'm like, "Well, it's worth a try." I mean, right now we're going off of data that's just incorrect. It's old. And so we said, "Okay, let's wire something up." So we wired something up, and we had an AI note taker, and we started plugging the notes into a dashboard that we had made, and we logged in the next day, and it was honestly shocking, Jim. We logged in and we said, "Wait a second. that phone call, that video call we had at the end of yesterday is already showed up as a new project. It already has 3 tasks on it. It's already assigned it to the right people, and it's gonna do that all the time,
Wow.
24/7 in the background. And it was like, "Wait a second." And it did that just from Zoom calls. So then we said, "Okay, well, what if we hook it into Slack also?" Because we talk about projects in there too. So we said, "All right, let's do it." So we connected this dashboard to our Slack account, right?
Mhm.
And it started pulling in data, and we started looking at it, and it started having an even more complete view of our projects and what's going on. And then I realized we were using this dashboard that we had made all the time, and the way we used it completely changed. Instead of doing work and then begging everyone to input data at the end of the workday,
Mhm.
instead we just did the work, and then we logged in to see the status of the work, not to do data entry. And so after we did that, we just had this experience where we said, this is literally amazing. We've never seen a piece of software that it feels so automagical. And so we said, you know what? There's a product here. So we actually created a product out of it, and we started letting a few friends use it. We started letting a few people, hey, try this, see if it works for you. And the feedback was just like, this is magic. Like, how'd you all do this? And we're like, well, the AI was already in the meeting, and it's already really good at assessing projects and tasks and friction and blockers and all the things. And so then we decided to make it a full blown product. So if you want right now, I'll screen share and actually just click around and show you how it picks up on things from the actual meetings you're having and the actual conversations that are happening in Microsoft Teams or Slack or Zoom or Google Meet or any of the note takers that you're using. You can connect it to any of those, and it just pulls in the data and organizes your world. So you ready for a screen share?
Absolutely. Go for
All
it.
right, let's do it. So let me click the right buttons here. Think this is the right one.
I'm
Okay.
seeing it.
All right, you see it. So this is workplace.io. All right.
Okay.
And so let me just show you a little bit of what's happening. So I'll start on the projects tab. Well, actually, notice at the bottom it says importing your data, importing from
Yep.
Zoom. So it's literally importing the meeting that I was just on before this podcast. So I
Wow.
literally had my team stand up. And when the call was over, it started pulling in the transcript to update our project, right? And so it's literally importing, and I didn't tell it to import, it just did that automatically. So I'm on projects. These are all the projects that it's discovered from our own meetings. And it tells me the status. Is it healthy, unhealthy? It tells me who's on the project, how old the project is, and what the activity level on the project is, right? And so I can just at a glance see all of our projects. And then I can go into one of these. I'll click on this one here. So this is a Zoom call I did with somebody that wants me to come on her podcast, right? And so I did this call, and it picked it up as a project. It's a career and mindset podcast. The activity's low on it because we only had one, video call about it. We did that about a month ago. It gives me an overview, and it says, okay, this is the summary of what the podcast is about. It shows me if there's any friction. There's none right now. It shows me if there's any blocks. There's none right now. It shows me the activity feed of the project. I can see a briefing of the project, and it says, okay, what the project is. It can show me where the project stands today. It can show me just all this information about it, the people on the project, and this links to real people. I'll show you that in a second. And it shows me what's next. And so it gives me the next steps as well. And so it's all this information about this project, and I didn't have to put any of this in. And then I can click on people, and it shows me the people on the project. So it's saying, hey, this is a project with you and Mina. And I'm like, great. And our activity's low because we haven't worked on it. So it knows that. It shows me the meetings where it found that project. So I'll show you what this is in a second, but I could click on this meeting and it would show me everything about this meeting, right? I can go to task and it shows me all of the tasks it's created based on the conversation that me and Mina had. And then I can even see the activity feed in real time. When somebody does something around this project, it tells me about it. I get that kind of view for every project that's going on inside my organization without having to do any manual data entry whatsoever. And then when I click on people, it shows me all the people in my organization, which is absolutely amazing. And so I can see all the people, and at first it just shows the ones connected to me, but I could also just show all people. So I'll just keep it the ones connected to me. I'll click on somebody, I'll click on myself here, and it'll show me a summary of that person. So I can see a summary of what that person is doing right now. I can see their top skills based on what they're actually working on. I can see their top projects based on what they're actually working on. I can see a list of all their projects. I can see the meetings that they're on. So these are all the meetings where that person shows up. I can see the tasks that have been assigned to them and what project that those tasks are assigned to. And I can see all the activity of this person. So I can look in real time and see what this person has been working on all the time. Imagine this level of granularity with all the people that you work with. And then I have the same window into meetings. So I can look at any meeting that's happened and I can click on that meeting. So here's one from June 16th. This is one from yesterday that it's already processed. It gives me a summary of the meeting. It tells me the topics that we talked about. It tells me the decisions that we made on that meeting, the action items that came out of that meeting, the risk that it found on that meeting, any task that it updated, and the projects that it updated because of that meeting. And it already found that we did one thing already, so it marked it off for us. We didn't go in and mark this off, it marked it
Wow.
off for us. And so I get this for every single meeting inside the organization. And then I'll show you a couple more things that are super cool. So there's also a graph view. So I can see how every person is connected to every project and every meeting. So here I am at the center. If I roll over a certain meeting, it shows me who was on that meeting. If I roll over a certain project, it shows me who was on that project. And I can click on it and go into that project. So it shows me all the data, and I could see this for any person inside of my organization. So I get a real view that I can zoom around and look at of how everything is connected. So I know really what's going on with all of our stuff. I can get a real-time activity feed across the whole organization. So this combines all the projects together and shows me what's happening in real time. And it shows me, is it a risk? Is it an update? Is it a decision that's been made? And I get all of this in real time. So as a leader, I can log in and see exactly the state of everything without anyone
Mm,
having to update the software. It also has a My Task view, so I can just see what's been given to me to look at. And then I can also have a Today view. So the Today view is, it's almost like your assistant walks into your office and says,
yep.
"Here's your cup of coffee, and here's the top 5 things you need to know right now." So for me, we're doing some LinkedIn marketing. So it says, "Hey, you need to refine the LinkedIn audience targeting because that's something we talked about." And it tells me what project it's connected to. It tells me I need to engage with LinkedIn comments. We had a post yesterday that got a lot of comments, and I made a remark on the meeting, "Hey, I need to go engage with those comments." And it gives me the top 5 things that I need to be focused on based on everything going on in my world. And I could ask the AI anything about my projects and it would answer. I could say, is this project behind schedule? What's the risk on this project? What is Lucas working on right now? And it could answer any of that. And then we
Mm,
also have a search functionality. So I could literally search, we'll do a search for Steve. And I can see the projects that Steve is on. I can see the person Steve, so I could go look at more stuff. I can see the meetings that he's on, the task assigned to him. And so I can search for anything going on and it'll show me just stuff related to that thing. And so this is almost like project management in the age of AI. So now project management is just happening and it's not something that anyone has to go and update all the time. Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah, this is really good. And then, you've got another aspect to it, where you start getting into the personalities and how to lead people and everything else. And
Hmm.
that is a huge, I think, huge
Hmm.
differentiator because if Lucas is, you can look at and say, okay, well, he's struggling here. I need to find him extra help. And it's going to
Hmm.
tell you that, but it's going to tell you the type of person that Lucas needs that he's going to work best with or how to
Hmm.
communicate with Lucas. And the other thing that, you guys have done so well is if I have to send Lucas an email, one of the things I think is really, really important is when I'm communicating with something, there's something I say, there's something else that they hear.
Hmm.
And I can go through with your aspects and
Hmm.
clarify exactly, have the AI take it, because the AI will know me, it'll know Lucas, and it'll say, okay, this is a
Mhm,
better way to say it to Lucas. Let's just rephrase it for you. And
mhm,
communication goes through the roof, which
mhm.
increases relational trust and accountability. And there's just more happiness in the workplace. And
Yeah,
alignment goes up, execution capacity, all those things.
absolutely. I had a CEO, or not CEO, a CIO of a publicly traded company. They have about 10,000 employees, and
Yep.
he saw this and he said, "You know what? This tells me everything that Jira can't." And
Yep.
so he's actually going to use Jira alongside this. They
Yep.
have so many people still using Jira, and he's not going to try to get them all to do this. But he says, I'm going to have this running in the background automatically, and it's going to give me this layer of information that I could never get from Jira. And it can tell
Yep.
you the kinds of stuff that you just mentioned, Jim. You can ask about a person, you can ask about a project, you can ask about a certain initiative and where we're at on it. You can ask about a certain sales call and do you think the deal is going to close? Why or why not? And it has all the context. What this thing really is, it's the context layer for the modern organization. You're doing all this stuff in meetings, whether it's on video calls or whether it's in Teams or Slack. It's taking all of that context so that this becomes your second brain as an organization that
Mhm.
really knows the status of everything. And we've given you a few windows into that brain. You can look at it through the view of projects. You can look at it through the window of people. You can look at it through the window of meetings, but you can also come up with your own queries and you can ask the AI something that maybe isn't just a meeting, a project, or a person, because it really is a second brain that knows how everything is interconnected and it understands the context of everything so that you as a leader can get the actual information you need to be able to lead well.
Well, and I think what's exciting about this is project managers are about to spend a lot less time gathering informations and more time solving problems, which is what their
Mhm.
skill set is. Do you see something else that could be happening with that job of the project manager?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that data entry is not going to be the main thing they have to do. And the way I view the world is that there's certain things that AI should do, and there's certain things that only humans can do.
Yep.
And you probably heard the quote before, only do what only you can do. And that's
Yep.
been kind of a good aphorism for just team dynamics. If there's
Hmm.
something on the team that only you can do, then only do that thing because that's your superpower. That's where you
Yep.
really show up the best. But now think about that quote in the context of AI, only do what only you can do. Well, data entry can be done by AI. So that's not something that only you can do. Therefore, you shouldn't be doing it. But the only thing you can do as a project manager, as a leader, is understanding personalities, dynamics, understanding motivation, vision, decision making. I think that the role of the project manager is really a decision making role and not a data entry role. I think
Right.
AI can input the data, so let AI do it. I'll give you an example. When the calculator came out, it was really good at doing computations, right?
Hmm.
But the AI didn't know what the calculator didn't know what calculations to do. So mathematicians would use their creativity and their vision to use the calculator to come up with new theorems. The calculator didn't know what theorems to try, but the
Yep.
calculator could compute them. I think the same thing is happening with project management. Let AI input all the data. The project manager needs to be a decision making machine. It needs to
Right.
be the thing that actually makes the critical decision that only a human can make and to lead people with its understanding of humanity in a way that only a person could. But the idea of entering the data when we already have an AI that can do it better seems like we're working backwards. And I think that's the era we're moving into with project management.
Yeah. Do you think AI will eliminate weekly status meetings?
Yeah, I think it'll depend, right? And so
Hmm.
on my team, it hasn't eliminated them. You would think that it has, but we do them differently now. And I'll tell you what I
Yep.
mean. Before, the status meeting was almost to get the data so that we could input it into the software manually. Now, the
Okay.
status meeting is we actually show up, we screen share Workplace, and we talk through where things are at. And then the AI picks up on what's done and what new things need to be added. So it's almost like a conversation that the AI uses to update the status and not a
Yeah.
conversation for us to go back and do manual data entry. And so I think that there's new kinds of meetings, new kinds of workflows. I think that there's a super ability to people just meeting together. And so I'm not necessarily of the mindset that we should just do away with meetings and try to get down to as few meetings as
Yep.
possible,
Yep.
because I
Yep.
think great things happen on meetings, but the
Yeah.
AI should be listening and updating during those meetings. So I think the theme and the kinds of meetings that we have can actually change.
Yeah, it's like having a really good scribe who's on a
Mhm,
different level and just, you've gotta capture those notes. Now, I think a lot of people are walking around with these little cards, they put them in their pockets like, "Oh,
mhm,
let me turn this on so I get the conversation." That is something that's very valuable too, because a lot of times you wanna have these meetings face to face, but I do want, the notes
mhm,
on that, and there are things that I'll forget, I won't remember important key things, and I love that little reminder that says, "Hey, remember you talked about this? You guys get real excited. This is something that
mhm,
goes into the project." It captures all of that, and it really helps you tremendously. I don't know, David Allen talks a lot about, getting things done, and
mhm,
it alleviates a lot of stress when you get it out of your head and onto paper, and this is an assistant that's doing that, and I think it
mhm.
lowers the tension levels, lowers the anxiety, and improves the culture just having a tool like this.
Jim, you just nailed it. So I've read Getting Things Done at least half a dozen times. And
Yeah,
one of the things that Alan says in that book is you have to get things out of your mind and into a trusted system, right?
yeah,
Now, I think his system is a little complicated and I don't use it to actually organize my life. But I think some of the things he said in that book are absolutely gold. One of the things he said is you should never have a thought twice unless you really enjoy having that thought. Right? But a lot of
right.
us, we just keep having these to-dos roll around our head and these projects roll
Mhm.
around our head. And so, yeah, this gets it out of our head and into a trusted system. And another thing is if you're having an in-person meeting, you don't have to pull out the cards and, make notes. What you can actually do is you can open up the laptop or pull it up on your phone, hit the
Yeah,
record button, and it'll actually record right there in the
yeah,
room that you're in, and it can pick up the notes that way. Or if you don't record in the room, you can hit the record button while you're walking back to your car. Now, again, that's an extra step and that may create friction, and a lot of people aren't going to do it. So let's just be honest. But most of the people will just use it because it's already on Zoom, it's already in Slack, it's already on Teams. But if there is an important meeting, you can just hit record on the laptop and it's going to pick up everything in person also, or as a personal note taker for you.
yeah, but there's also, the reason why I wanted there's incentive to do it. There's an incentive to hit record
Mhm,
because it gives visibility to the people that I wanna have visibility that I'm
mhm,
involved, I'm active in this. If I don't hit that,
mhm,
then it looks like I'm not active, so there's an incentive for that. I want the kudos, I want the strokes, I get a dopamine hit from that.
mhm. Absolutely. You know what's funny is one of the things we've seen on our own meetings now that we use workplace.io is we actually talk to workplace, which is really interesting. So we'll be on a meeting and somebody will say, "Hey, workplace, mark that off. I just finished it." And then we'll all be like, "Let's go," or somebody be like, "Hey, workplace, make sure you add a project for X, Y, or Z. That's going to be a new initiative for us." And then the AI note taker picks up on that and then updates everything. And so the meetings have a different feel to them now. We know everything's being captured and we're getting that little dopamine hit because we open up workplace and we see that, like, oh, it just checked off things for me that I got completed. That's awesome. And you can go and look at all the things that you've accomplished this week. And here's what's cool: you realize you did more than you gave yourself credit for. You go and look and you say, you know what, I actually did a lot of things this week, and it captured all of them and marked them off. It wasn't just the things that I thought was important enough to write down. So you really see how much team members are contributing. I'll tell you one more thing that's really interesting about it from a leadership point of view, Jim, is one of the things I've heard is leaders feel like there's a gap between the work they want to happen and what
Yep,
people are actually working on, right?
yeah.
And what this allows them to do is they can see the activity level on the projects. They can see the activity feed of what individuals or what projects are actually doing. And they can say, guys, why are we working on this? This doesn't matter. This other thing is a thing that matters. And I can see in our activity feed that all of us are running toward this goal, but this other thing is what we decide we need to work toward. And so it gives leaders this visibility into, is your team working on the high value things that you actually want them to be working on? And that's priceless
Right.
right there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, I want to go into accountability without surveillance. And this is a place where a conversation always goes because
Hmm.
when you say AI is monitoring projects, a lot of people hear something different.
Yeah.
How do you sit with that tension? Because the real
Yep.
line between visibility and surveillance, there is a real line, and people are not crazy to feel a little bit nervous about that. So flesh that out a little
Absolutely.
bit for me.
Yeah, so here's what I would say. The only thing being captured in workplace is what you wish people were already inputting manually. It's not giving
Right,
you new information, it's just keeping the information you already have the right to have up to date. So it's not telling you personal information about people, it's not telling you things you shouldn't know. All the information is being scrubbed in multiple layers. And so that the things that are actually being populated is what's the project? What's the task? Who's working on it? Is there friction and blockers? What's the meeting notes? But these are things that we should already have access to. So, what I tell
right.
people is if you want your employees to update project management software and keep it up to date, then you shouldn't have a problem with this keeping it up to date for you because it's the exact same information.
Right, and one of the things that I make a comment of, it's kind of a catchphrase that I'm using now is I said, "When output becomes unlimited, wisdom becomes priceless." And that's my new catchphrase.
Mm-hmm.
That's my you can quote me on that.
I will.
But what happens is AI makes you more of what you already are. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what kind of a tool that I give you. If you have some character defects that need to be worked on, for example, you're a micromanager and you get AI, it doesn't matter what form of AI you're getting, that's turning your micromanagement into steroids. And that's
Mm-hmm.
more of a coaching and a behavioral change that needs to happen versus it being an AI problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes you more of who you already are. But here's the thing too is it's just an AI note taker on team calls. That's all it is, right? At the end of the day, let's keep it really simple. All it's doing is taking what you're talking about in a team environment and translating it into projects and tasks. And so it's not actually pulling out any secret information. It doesn't have any secret information. It's only
Yeah.
looking at what teams are talking about and then it's just organizing it really well. You think about the people that use Fireflies or Granola or Fathom to take notes on their calls. They love that the AI note taker is on the call and summarizing what's happening. And that's why those note takers pop up on almost every call that you're on. This is doing the same thing. It just also says, are they talking about projects? Are they talking about tasks? It's just
Yeah.
giving you more structure to that data, but it's just an AI note taker on a Zoom call or on a Microsoft team call. That's all it really is.
Yeah. You don't want to have that turned on when you got a group down in the pit of despair.
There you go. Well, that's the other
So,
thing I should mention. So you can actually go into the settings and you can tell it what meetings to ingest and what meetings to not bring into the data. So you
yeah.
can delete a meeting and it removes it, or you can actually make it ask you, do you want to include this meeting in the project management? And you can be like, nope, don't want to include that one, right? And
Yep.
you can actually set it up so that certain meetings never get included. So you have full control over what gets ingested at every step of the process.
Yeah. Oh, well, I saw that I was in the layoffs when you were no,
Exactly. Exactly.
talking about that. Let's talk a little bit about the future of leadership. So AI, if AI gives leaders perfect visibility into the team's work, what becomes the leader's actual job?
Yeah, they do the same thing they should have always been doing,
Hmm.
which is setting the vision,
Okay.
right? Deciding what matters, making the judgment call, using true human creativity to make hard decisions. There's the thing is, I would almost flip it around and say, what can AI do? And
Yeah.
honestly, almost nothing. Like almost nothing. It can take notes, it can update project management software, it can spit out reports, it can summarize data, it can crunch numbers, but that
Yeah.
was never the most important stuff of leadership to begin with. So it's a
Yeah.
fancy calculator. That's all it is. It's like an autocomplete. It's like when you could do a Google search and it autocompletes what you're searching for.
Yeah.
AI is just a fancy autocomplete on steroids. That's all it is. And so the real question is, what can AI do? And AI can some workflows be more efficient. It can do
Mhm.
better with data entry and data manipulation, but it can't set the vision. It can't make a judgment call. It can't decide who should work on what things and why. Those are always the things that the leader has to do based on their intuitive knowledge of the environment they're in, the competitive situation they're in, what people are feeling, right? AI doesn't know what people are feeling, right? It can't look in their eyes and say, you know what? This person needs an attaboy. This person needs this. This person needs a break. This person needs more
Yeah.
challenge. And so the human is always going to do those things that the AI really can't do because it's just a calculator, right?
Yeah. That's really good. I think, do you think leadership becomes more human when the technology underneath it becomes more intelligent?
Absolutely. Because here's the thing, what makes us less human is when you take people and say, hey, you're going to do data entry. That's the most inhumane thing you could do. If you sit in a chair all day doing data entry, you're doing a job that computers can do really well, that AI can do really well. And I think that's actually robbing people of their humanity. So I think we become more human when we give AI the task that it was meant to do, because those are the tasks that really suck the soul out of us. I mean, I don't know how many people love doing their taxes, right? It's like, okay, well, why? Because it's data entry, it's
Yeah.
manipulation of information, it's just doing math, it's trying to figure out the right thing to put in the right field at the right time. No one says, I did my taxes and I just came alive. It just really made me just love life. It made me have just a zest for tomorrow. It made me just want to tackle the day with newfound energy. Why? Because you were doing a job that a machine was built to do. And
Yeah.
humans aren't built to do data entry and data manipulation. We're not that
Yeah.
good at it. It sucks our soul. It's not what we should be spending our time doing. But when you get a human involved in a collaborative conversation, they start coming alive, right? AI
Yeah.
can't do that, but you get a human in a Zoom call and they start talking about like, oh, maybe we should try this. Or, oh no, this reminds me of this insight. Oh, have you read this book? Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we should try it this way. No, I tried that. It didn't work. Let's do it this way. And all of a sudden, it's a bunch of people doing what people do, which is collaborate and be creative and actually detail the vision of what it is we're doing. And then they go back to AI and say, hey, you dumb calculator, did you keep track of all that? Yep, I kept track of it all. Cool. It's like, great, thanks. But like, never elevate AI to the place of a human and never demote a human to the place of AI by
Yeah.
making them do data entry that the AI was built to do. But the AI cannot run your team, can't run your company, can't make the hard decisions, can't do that much. But what it does really well. So use it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, Bronson, paint a picture for me. A high performing organization 10 years from now, what is it doing differently than it does today?
Yeah, I mean, that is the most loaded question you could possibly ask. Because if you said, what does a high performing organization do in 10 days that they're not doing today, it would actually
Right.
be hard to answer. Like I said before, I've never seen business move so fast. I've never seen workflows change so quickly. I've never seen AI do the kinds of things we just talked about so well. And so 10 years from now, I don't know if anyone has a clear vision. I know that it's going to be AI doing all of the workflows that AI should do, right? I almost want to get in front of people and say, let's just document all of your workflows as a leader, as, executive, document all of your workflows. I would say that a lot of them will probably be done by AI in the future. If it's
Yeah.
something where it's data in, data out, data in, data out, then yes, the AI should probably be trained to do it and it'll probably do it better. And so I think we're going to get away in the future from people doing a lot of the jobs they currently do, but that's going to open up time to do the jobs they're supposed to do. I think there's going to be lots of new kinds of software being created. I think there's going to be new kinds of businesses being created. I think there's
Yeah.
going to be teams that tackle things in ways they can never imagine right now, because right now they're too in the weeds on the infrastructure and the machinery. But once AI does those workflows, it opens up them to actually be more creative. I almost think that the future belongs to philosophers and poets, right? Because we're going to
Mm,
get out of the mindset of being the cog. Right now, humans are cogs in the machinery. Humans have to input the data, take it from point A and put it in point B, file the TPS report, do the status meeting, right? Right now, we build organizations around people, but the people are really just glorified cogs in a really
yeah.
fancy workflow. When AI can become the cogs, then I think the people who think more like poets and philosophers have the edge, because they're
Yeah.
able to dream, they're able to be creative. And I think in the future, it's about how people orchestrate agents, not how can people compete with agents, because you
Yeah.
can't. You can't compete with agents on the things they do well, and agents can't compete with you on the things that only humans can do well. But you're going
Yeah.
to be a layer above the agents. And I think that's where the poet comes in. You have to be able to imagine what if, right? If you're not in the habit right now of asking what if, then you probably don't have a role in the future of organizations. If
Yeah.
you see yourself as a cog in the machinery of workflow to get work from A to B, then AI will probably take your job. But if you're the kind of person that says, what if? Why don't we do this? Can an agent do this and this? What if I orchestrated all these things to have this output? And if you don't limit your creativity and you don't self edit before trying things, and you surround yourself with fellow poets and philosophers who are interested in what's possible, not just what has been, then
Yeah.
you're going to be the people that are going to lead the organization in 10 years. Because in 10 years, we don't need more cogs. We need
Yeah.
more people with creativity. And I don't think AI will ever have taste. It will never be truly creative. It'll never have the soul of a human to make the judgment call that matters.
Oh, that's so good. So good, Bronson. Now, Bronson, we've talked about AI, project management, visibility, accountability, and execution, but underneath
Mhm,
every project, underneath every deadline, underneath every dashboard are people and
mhm,
people trying to build something meaningful together. So I want to end with two questions. And the
mhm,
first one is imagine you are standing in front of a Fortune 500 group of leaders, and they're going to remember one thing from this conversation. What do you want them to understand about visibility, trust, and getting the important work done?
yeah. What I would say is I would actually go up another level above that. And I would say, don't be afraid to try new workflows, right?
Mm,
Because we do things the way we've always done them. And that's
yeah,
safe, it's predictable. It's also how the modern organization is going to die. You have
yeah,
to be willing to try new workflows. And right now, you're probably thinking, I have project managers, I have project management software. Okay, but is that really the way things are going to happen in the future in terms of visibility? So don't be
yeah,
afraid to try a new workflow. And, obviously, my product is workplace.io. So I would say go there and say, what's going to happen if we try this alongside our current project management software? No harm, no foul. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't break the old machinery until the new machinery is working, right? But what
yeah,
happens if you let AI listen in on the conversations, organize the project, and give you more visibility than you've ever had? One of two things is going to happen. One, it's just not going to work. And you're like, okay, we're going back to the old way. Fine, right? Or it works beautifully. And now you have a new arrow in your quiver. You
yeah,
have a new tool in your toolkit. You have a new thing that can give you a superpower as a leader, as a project manager. So I would just say, don't be afraid of trying new workflows. Don't destroy the old. try the new and then destroy the old if you need to, if it makes sense. But,
Yeah.
and I would say apply that mindset to everything. Project management is just one thing, right? Try it with everything because there's so many innovative companies creating so many innovative workflows where AI is taking the pressure off of humans, where we're stuck being calculators and it's really good at that. That I would say start adopting workflows, trying new agentic workflows, and find what works for you. Throw out the chaff, keep the wheat, but there's probably a lot of wheat in things that you're a little bit afraid to try right now.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
be. Just try it and see what happens.
That's really good. And the last question, this one's personal.
Mhm.
At the end of your career, what do you hope people say you helped them make you helped make visible that others couldn't see?
Yeah. I would say that I hope people feel more alive because of my influence on them. That
Mm,
as much as I work in AI, it's just a calculator, right? Like, it's nothing more, it's nothing less. What I want people to say is that they really got in touch with their humanity, with what it means to be a human, with
mhm.
what they uniquely bring to the conversation, and that
Yep,
they actually start putting their effort into areas that just make them feel alive.
that's really good. Well, Bronson, we have shared a feast. I am very, very excited about this. I'm so glad you went down this path. I think this is a game changer for a lot of companies. I think this will improve cultures. I think this will
Mhm,
improve workplaces. I think it'll make Mondays a lot funner to come into the
mhm.
office. And my hat's off to you. So thanks for being on Speaking with Authority.
Jim, this is awesome. Thank you.